Welcome home. We are WNST. Tassa Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We're positively getting the Maryland Crab Cakes. We're back out on the road on July 12th. A little respite for the holidays. Go get your own crab cakes. I'm taking a little time down, get a little pool time, watching the Orioles. But on the 12th, we'll be back down at Fayetteville. Speaking of the Orioles, Yankees and the Orioles on the 12th. All are brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. We'll have the Gold Rush Sevens doublers, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care and the Liberty Pure Solutions, keeping the water crystal. I would show you the water in this set, but I have heirlooms here because this is going to be a cool segment, especially if you're watching out on the web, which we appreciate everybody that goes out on the YouTube and our Facebook video and all that stuff. This is going to be a show and tell segment. Danny Black joins me. Danny, I've known for almost a quarter of a century. He once built closets in my downtown condo at Harbor Court, where I lived for 20 years. I knew him then. And then, lo and behold, 2 years ago, I got a weird invitation from the folks at the Babe Ruth Museum. Mike Gibbons and those folks invited me down, and Mike Bordick was there to show off my Louis Aparicio collection. And as legend would have it, when Willie Mays passed 2 weeks ago, Bob Ryan from the Boston Globe put a tweet out. And John Rand sent it to me from Puck and Sports Business Journal. He said, hey, this is a cool fact. And the fact was Luis Aparicio is now the oldest living Hall of Famer. And I'm like, wow. And the question was, who's the greatest living player? And that would be probably a Bonds Rose argument of some case, I guess. Danny is in the sports collectible business. I was down at Babe Ruth Museum walking around, and I saw Robbie Jr., people I know that are people that were there, fans of mine, collectors, old friends. Kurt Buechele might have even been there. And I ran into you hawking baseball cards down on the first floor. And I said, how could you have been in my home building these beautiful closets that house my Robert Graham collection and all my wife's heirlooms, and which we don't have anymore, by the way. We sold the condo a few years ago. But and how did you and I never talk about sports memorabilia? How was that possible that I spent, I don't know, 30 hours with you and I never heard a peep about your baseball card collection?
I was doing a poor job, clearly, of telling you what I really loved, because I started, gosh, probably 35 years ago in this business, and I always worked in it, even when I was doing closets, was working in the background. So I was doing
I
a
would have shown you some really cool stuff if you just would
I'm
have
telling you,
asked.
we would have had a lot more fun than just talking closets. We could have really had a blast. But I'm glad you reached out. It's good to see you. You've been doing this a long time, and it's finally glad to break bread.
Well, I'm looking over your shoulder and seeing what I identify. It looks like an uncut series of All-Star Game tickets over your right shoulder from the '93 All-Star Game. Was it a printer sheet? What is that?
They were 4 consecutive season tickets, and actually, I don't know if you can see the clock in the background,
No.
but they center the center field clock makes an image in the background, so it's almost impossible.
Were those tickets used?
They were, but they would not cut them or separate them. We made sure that they kept them together, and I kept them actually pressed that day of the game.
So you literally you went and
Yeah,
asked for them to let you. Okay, I understand exactly where you're going. So you're the only one with that item.
I am the only one with that item.
Yeah, well, that makes it kind of fun. So let's have a little bit of fun. I mean, first off, tell everybody what you do and what the modern card business is, because I have been I've been sucked back into collecting. My wife bought me a Rush belt buckle and a Led Zeppelin. I have this crazy Pacifica belt buckle collection. I don't want to say one of the best in the world, but it might be one of the best in the world. Like it's in that I'm getting there, the last couple of years. And it really does. And my wife doesn't fully understand it. She appreciates it because they're cool. The reason I collect the belt buckles, and I'll show you, I have them in my studio. The reason I collect them is they're beautiful and they're functional. I wear them. I put them on my waist. I'm not freaked out that they're worth $100 or $50 or whatever they're worth. And I haven't really chipped one up. I do when I wash my hands in restaurants and you move forward with your waist. But baseball cards were always the apple of my eye in my childhood. I was a collector dealer in my neighborhood. I was a 12-year-old with a table at the Holiday Inn when Jay Finglass would put on the show in June every year. So I'm talking 1979, 80, 81, 82. And then I got into journalism, and it just like I collected a thing here or again. I never sold anything. It certainly was tacky to be in the locker room asking for autographs and stuff. Like certainly just not something I ever did. You know what I mean? I didn't even take a whole lot of selfies or whatever like we do in the modern era, but I love the art of it all. And the art of the Pacifica buckles got me, it sucked me in a few years ago to collecting things and what I would want. And I don't collect anything that I used to collect ticket stubs, World Series programs, all of that. But I collect Aparicio stuff. And that sucked me back in. It's probably one of the reasons I invited you on because I'm trying to understand the hobby or the business in modern terms.
And it's a great perspective you have because collecting can be any item and it can be anything that you have a passion for. One of the things I've done is actually, if I can give a quick shout out to hobbynewsdaily.com, that's the website I started basically to cover the collectible hobby industry because you hit the nail on the head. It has become a full industry. Fanatics is fully invested in the hobby. And we're
And the
talking
Ravens are invested in them, apparently. So,
and so are the Orioles. Everybody sips at the teat of Fanatics right now, and they are pushing to grow the hobby 10 times larger than it's been. So, if you think you've seen baseball cards everywhere, you're going to see them 10 times more. And that's raising, high tides raise all boats. That's raising the collectible world everywhere. A blunt smoked by Snoop Dogg was just auctioned off by a major auction house for over $5,000.
what was it again? You blipped
A,
out on me.
a blunt smoked by Snoop Dogg
A blunt smoked by Snoop Dogg.
went for over $5,000.
Well, look, we could collect anything, and the
That's my
apple of
point.
someone's eye.
That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, people
I
collect real estate, right? Like literally,
so
right?
I'm for anybody collecting anything, but that shows you how strong the collectible market is. I mean, people are whether it's sneakers, whether it's art, whether it's baseball cards, the demand is just flying through the roof. There's a whole nother generation. There's been a shift, from our parents and grandparents to now us, our kids, and our grandkids.
Yeah. Once I heard the George Brett rookie card was selling for a lot of money because George was my guy, I started thinking that too. I sold a bunch of stuff a couple of years ago because I was afraid it was going to get screwed up. Like Paul McCartney autographed a Rolling Stone for like just stuff that was worth money that I'm like, I'm not going to own a sports bar. I'm not putting it on the wall. I'm not making out with it. Like I don't know why I like what I like or I want the belt buckles to me are functional. They're fun. I wear them. So that has a purpose. One of the things about the collectible space that got me out of it was, and I have every ticket stuff from every concert I've ever gone to. I know they have value now and like all that stuff. I keep those because they're near and dear to my heart and they're colorful and but you can digitally copy all that, share it out after you sold it. I sold my McCartney thing. I still have a copy of it. I know what it looked like. I wasn't going to print, and it'll fund my kids' further life, at some point. But the Aparicio thing came back to me when I ran into you that day down at the Babe Ruth Museum. And it was right around the time I started getting into the belt buckles, right? And it just put me out on eBay and Mercari and right out into the
That's a rabbit hole, Nestor.
and well, it is, and I've never sold any. I don't have a store there, but I'm about to sell all my Raven stuff and sell all my Orioles stuff because I just don't want it anymore. I don't need it, and none of it has any intrinsic. Ray Lewis didn't autograph the first. I don't have any of that, but just getting rid of stuff. Just same way you give stuff to give Goodwill, you outgrow stuff or whatever. My Aparicio card collection is really interesting. And Danny Black's our guest here because it was gone. I own a radio station. I've owned it for 26 years. I had employees at one point. At one point, I had a thief. Um, didn't take long to identify this human. Long since gone. But stuff got stolen all the time. CDs, stuff just disappeared. And along the way, I had an envelope, was a manila envelope with all my Aparicio stuff in it. And at one point, it maybe sat in a safe or something like that, and it just disappeared. And man, it was a couple of weeks before I saw you 2 years ago at Babe Ruth that I found the manila envelope and I opened it because my wife and I moved. When we moved 2.5 years ago, I found it. And it was a holy shit moment. It was like I had written it off. I hadn't seen it in 15 years. So everything I showed you that day 2 years ago, all of it's autographed because Louis autographed it all in June of 1986.
Yep.
So everything I had in June of 86 was autographed. Everything that came after that wasn't. And a lot of that was like a fan gave me a 61 high number that I had a hard time getting. You couldn't get a 61 high number Louis Aparicio. You couldn't get a 71 Kellogg's Aparicio. Really obscure, weird stuff.
I love it.
Unless you went to like the New Jersey show in Atlantic City and got lucky. You'd have to go to every. You got any Kellogg's? Nah, that's shit. I don't know how to do that. You have any Kellogg's? Yeah. And I could never get the 71 high number. The one I had was all scratched up. eBay, when I got religion and I found my original box of stuff, which I'm going to share some of the fun stuff with you, allowed me to see sort of the value of it. And, but more than that, it allowed me to see the stuff I was missing. And dude, I can't begin to tell you the rabbit hole that this has sent me down with old Houston Oiler paraphernalia that I never seemed to buy, but I love. I really effed up on a bobblehead that was $70, should have bought it. I effed up on a belt buckle with the blue logo from 71 for $55, and I didn't take it. My wife's like, what's wrong with you, dude? And now my wife's like, she gets pissed at me when I let one of a kinds get away. So I'm like everybody else. I got a story. There's a story for every card that got away, right, Dan? You had a chance on that 52 mantle at one time. You didn't buy it.
Well, once it crossed 8 million, I was out.
I had a chance to buy $100 one at J. Finglass in 1981, and everyone in the room was aghast that somebody came in and spent $100 on a mantle. I'm being honest with you. It was the story of the show in 1981.
Yeah, I mean back then it was a whole different price range.
It wouldn't have been hard for me to have 3 of them when I was a kid, and just have them in a box. It
all
wouldn't
of
have been
us.
hard.
I mean, I wasted my time on Todd Van Poppel. That was a mistake. But
I wasted my time on the Craig Nettles error card and Dunright and Fleer in 81, right? I literally. So
well, the Bill Ripken card just got re-released this year with Jackson Holiday.
How much is the original one worth? The original F-face card?
You have to find it in perfect condition to have any value, but it can be worth a couple $100 easily. And then the rare versions can go for thousands. The white scribble and all the alternate versions that they made, those are hard to find.
Well, they were playing games at these companies back in the 80s when Dunruss and Topps came out and baseball was happening and all the licensing and all of that. And the double prints in 78, Pete Rose, 1,000,078 Pete Rose. I mean, I know your industry from 82 back. I don't know much about the modern part of it because I had a press credential for 26 years until they took it away 18 years ago. And just collecting baseball cards, it felt very common to me. Collecting press pins, World Series press pins, of which I had a bunch of them. I'm amazed at how inexpensive they are if I wanted to get into that market to collect all the World Series. But they're really small and specialized. But there are neat things that if I had, I don't know, David Rubenstein's money or John A., I would probably collect some really weird baseball stuff. I would have more bobbleheads and things like that. But the spacing issue of taking up space became an issue for me that I like ticket stubs better than I like anything else because I collected baseball. I mean, we had card cabinets in my home, in my little row house in Dundalk in 1980. I have old pictures of them. Cards were heavy, like albums, and but people still love them. Danny, I was in New York just wandering around Chelsea, and I walked into a card store. I got a cup of coffee, and I'm looking through books of the stuff on your shoulders, just identifying, like, as an example, all those 1954s you have on the wall behind you that I can see.
That's the 54 Orioles team set, first year in Baltimore. And that's one of the things I collect personally was putting that set together.
Dude, that's a Pete Rose rookie card on the top.
Actually, I collect 2 sport athletes, so that's the Dave DeBuscher.
Okay. Well, it's small, but it looks like the Pete Rose.
You'll see some Bo, some Dion. I've got it mixed up. I've got a Danny Ainge, sitting around I haven't put away yet. Babe Diedrichson, Zaharias around somewhere. So
what gets you moist? I mean, as a real collector, because I love looking at this stuff. I get the guides when the auctions happen. I like just perving out on the web and seeing stuff that reminds me of my childhood. And I guess that's just part of getting old, man.
You know what I think? I think collectors have a gene in them. It's that sports gene, it's that romantic gene, it's that memory gene. And I like collecting stuff that connects to me. So whether it's Orioles, Ravens, specific stuff that I have memories with, I have the All-Star game tickets over here, but I also collect Sandy Koufax and I collect Baltimore Negro League items. I've got a Satchel Paige bobblehead from the Baltimore Elite Giants, if you'd want to do it correctly. And just stuff that means something to me, for one reason or another. And I'm of the generation where I still collect vintage, like you said, the older stuff. I'm putting together the 57 top set. And I just that's what gets me going is going through those cards. I like the hunt of it. You like you said, the rabbit holes of the internet and how much that changes collecting and what we can do now that we couldn't do when we were growing up is just been fantastic.
So these are the Aparicio cards. That it's 57, and a lot of these were autographed back in '86, like I said. Here is the previously mentioned 71 Kellogg's. So this is the one I had forever that's all scratched up and scrunched up, and this is the one I bought on eBay recently for about I think I paid $8 for it. Like I'm a bottom fisher on all of these because I don't feel like I told my wife I'm gonna start collecting Aparicio stuff, but there's gonna be a real like 10 or 15, $20 limit on anything. And I picked up things that I didn't know existed, right? So I want to show you a few really weird things. This is a 1963 Salada coin
Yep.
that I never knew existed, and I didn't even know how to say Salada. I said to my wife, "There's a Salada coin." She's like, "It's Salada. That's Salada tea. That's Salada tea." And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? And we had to go out onto YouTube, and she took me down a rabbit hole about what a Salada coin was. But I bought this. I think I paid $8. It's mint condition. So, but
I
this
was about
is
to say those are hard to find in good condition, Nestor. Don't underestimate that.
all right. Well, I had the coins from the '70s here. These are my beaten up ones from my childhood. They're not beaten up. They're okay. This
Yeah.
'64 is really cool because it's an Aparicio in an Oriole jersey. So all of that. I mean, obviously, I have a Heartland statue here that I could show you. This sort of mint condition. See the resemblance? A little bit around, little bit around the Venezuelan. So, but the neat part is about 2 months ago, and this is when you start popping up on my timeline. Again, you're going to be everywhere now because we're talking sports and cards and all that. I saw this really weird piece, and the dude wanted like $40 for it. I wound up paying like 20, maybe 18 or 20 for it. I've never seen it before. It's kind of like your uncut thing. It's something that's not a card, but it's interesting. I'm Venezuelan. When I go to Venezuela, the beer there is called Polar. It's Polar, like polar, like a polar bear, right? Polar beer. I saw this promo, and Louis, I should
Goodness.
pull it out of the thing. This is Louis promoting beer in Venezuela. El bate oficial de béisbol venezolano. So it's actually remember Coors
So
Light did
cool.
the beer bottles that were like bats. This
Yeah.
was a beer bottle that was like a bat in Spanish. It's sort of it's a placard with it's like a baseball card on the back, but it's gigantic. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy that. So I just waited and made an offer, and I figured it out, and I bought it. But like, I love the really weird stuff now. I am looking for a 58 Aparicio with the yellow White Sox at the bottom, and I'll get one eventually. And here's the thing about it: in the modern era, you just wait on eBay. I don't have to drive to these shows. So the collecting part for a guy my age, dude, the world is caught up to me that I can buy it or sell it. No offense to you or your shop, or come to you or sell it to you or find collections, but it's if I want a 56 Aparicio rookie, it's not finding one at a show and maybe getting lucky and talking Danny down on the price or whatever. My God, it's a supermarket. That's a thing that's crazy to
Absolutely.
me. And it really sets the value that the Blues Brothers or UFO Pacifica Belt and Rainbow are like holy grails because there aren't any of them. And you can get the Boston belts a dime a dozen, they're $30. You get them all day. Um, it's really crazy supply and demand. And it's a great thing to teach kids about supply and demand, I think.
Well, first of all, the lessons you can learn in collecting are reading, negotiating, math, all those things. I'm a big
Things I
fan.
use every day of my life that I used when I was 12 years old, literally.
Exactly. So get kids involved. I'm a big believer. Get kids involved. Take them, to experience it. Teach them history. I got to tell you though, that beer advertising is roughly 6 by 9 and that is beautiful. That's the stuff that gets me going, Nestor. You want to know what gets me going? Stuff like that. That absolutely, I'm in agreement. The weird stuff, the cool stuff, the stuff you don't see every day.
Well, so in my collection, here's something that I actually bought this from a local person. I bought this on eBay. And when the person mailed it to me, it was from Owings Mills, Maryland. And this person was a
I
fan.
I think I
And
know who it is actually.
I still don't know this person. I took a note of it and said thank you to the person. But this is an Esso coin from 1972. It's a coin with Louis' face on it. He's with a Red Sox hat, and it has a whole thing in the back in Spanish. Um, this was a Latin American issue, and I started seeing all of these Venezuelan cards of Louis, let alone the OPCs in Canada with various things in the late 60s. My buddy Mark Miller of Blondell Miller Schuler law firm down in Essex, one of my lifer friends, he is a Brooks Robinson guy. He
Okay.
has all the Brooks Robinsons in 10 PS. He's got one of the great Brooks Robinson collections, and he loved, he's a collector, and he's another one that sort of turned me on to things in your hobby that are modern. And he's like, dude, I'll send you a link to the website. You'll get the entire possibility of every Aparicio thing. And I'm like, dude, don't put me in that rabbit hole. And then he sent the damn thing. And there's just all sorts of really, really weird stuff that I didn't know about, including, and this is where the show and tell continues for you, Danny, that I really didn't realize that Milk Duds did these back in
Oh,
the
I
early
love that.
70s. So I picked up this. It's not the whole box. It cost, but I had a $20 limit on it. I mean, I'm just not going because I'm never going to sell the stuff. I'm putting it in a box. It's like this stamp I bought for I think $2.95.
Oh,
This is
sure,
one of those S&H collectible stamps from the 60s. So
sure.
I have, as you can tell, I come at this honest, Dan, getting you on the program right now, having some fun because I'm having old guy $10 fun. I mean, Rubenstein's not getting my money. Bisciotti is getting nothing from me except the truth. All of this money, these sports teams, by being complete a-holes to me, I don't try. Like, I'm spending $10 on Esso coins, or maybe 20 on this one. It's a pretty good coin.
You're not going to buy the Magna Carta?
Not this week. You know, I have the Magna Carta of the Super Bowl. That's good enough for me. And when you tell me it's worth enough, I'll let you know. Get you and Robbie
Exactly.
together. Tell me about what your business is
So
and
what
having fun because I would have fun just coming over to your house and looking at your stuff. I know I would.
absolutely. And there's some fantastic card shops in the area. I highly recommend people go to them. At this point, I work mainly as a broker and on the website hobbynewsdaily.com. And I'm involved in the corporate part of the hobby in my full-time other side of my life where I work for some and consult with some companies that are actually tech companies in the hobby space. So that's how I make a living at talking about baseball cards.
Do I need to get that checklist and work it? Because I'm looking through this box and I haven't looked through the box in a while. And I swear to you, and I'm not even kidding about this. I'm going to hold these up for you. You're going to get mad at me because they're not protected at this point. But they have these things from the 60s that I didn't know about. This thing here,
Oh, the
you know,
big, sure.
so these were they weren't real baseball
They're called
cards.
exhibits.
They're
Yep.
called exhibits, right? And I didn't know that I've been looking to bid on this. It's like a $50 or $60 item, not autographed. And as you can see, that's
I was
really
about to say
autographed.
that that's going
That's
to go
really
for a little
autographed.
bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know I had it until this 30-second. I'm looking through the box and I'm like, I've been trying to bid on this. The other thing that I saw that I didn't know I owned. You have to. Is this a TCMA? What is this? What is this crazy thing?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I see these things pop up online, and when I don't recognize them is when I get really interested in them. Why? That's weird,
Yep.
right?
That's the gene that I have. So if you to answer your question, yes, get the list. Go down the rabbit hole, dude. Like this is what it's about. This is the fun part of the hobby.
Well, I'm having fun with it. Look the cool thing.
Oh,
Let's
the
see.
postcards. Yep.
Postcards, Hall of Fame postcards, autographed by
Oh,
Louis, postmarked on the date that he was autographed. It was in the Hall of Fame. So I
absolutely.
I don't know. I now have not just my relationship and familial and all that. I I now have the collection of the world's oldest living Hall of Famer. Does the Willie Mays stuff, does it go up 20% when he passes?
Probably 10 to 20 on a quick bump. But the interesting thing is are the greatest living players also get a bump. So actually, Louis would have gotten a bump as the oldest living Hall of Famer. Koufax,
I have noticed, and I'll be honest, there's way more Aparicio stuff getting listed the last week or two than there has ever been.
that's
And
why.
that is why.
Yeah,
So this is timely to have you. I'm actually learning stuff about your hobby. And Danny Black is our guest. I have known him a long, long time. Tell everybody where to find you and to sell their crap, get good advice, or just hang out with the dude.
absolutely. Hobbynewsdaily.com. That's Hobby News Daily on Instagram, on Twitter. And that's the best way to reach out and get in touch or just read good content and see some good videos if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm pulling out stuff now that's sort of prized possession stuff to show you, but I have all of these like sort of inset newspapers.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I just this is a neat little treasure trove. I got to take better care of this. And again, Danny, I want to say this, and I want to say this to the employee who no longer works here who stole things. Thanks for not stealing this. I mean, I really appreciate it. That I still have it because I literally, Dan, when I'm telling you for 15 years, I just thought it was gone and on the internet, and some guy like you bought it. You know what I mean? I thought it was like presto, gone.
Well, when you started telling the story, I thought we were ending with a sad story, so I'm glad it ended happy.
Yeah. Well, it'll be happy when I get that 58 Aparicio with the White Sox in yellow underneath. I don't need it in mint. I mean, it's $20. Just give
I'm
me a
gonna go
half
look
beaten
at.
up.
I'm gonna go looking for you today. I promise.
Well, hold on a second, because when I find the real one, and I got to do this before I let you go, I actually own the card, and I want to show it to you. You ready?
Yeah.
This, I swear to God, I can pull this out because it has no value anyway. I'm gonna hold it. I'm gonna pull it out of its case. This is the 58 Aparicio I have. So you can see if you want to look, I can look at you through the hole. You can probably see, you can see my
Yep.
eye in it. I can see you
It's
through
a,
it. So I need to replace this. This is what you call a placeholder in your business, right?
very you are a terminology very well spoken in our hobby.
I have a box of Louis Aparicio cards here that my dad told me would be worth something one day. So I'm holding out hope that it's worth it. This was always the hardest one to get, the 61 high number Aparicio. This is an autograph, and it's almost mint condition. Somebody gave it to me. A fan dropped it off years
Wow.
ago and gave it to me and said, I hear you talk about needing the 61. I talked about it for years that I needed the 61 All-Star game high 61 All-Star high number. And then there's the weird things too, like these stamps that
Oh, I
Hank
love it.
Aaron's on that strip,
Yep.
right? So I don't know. You're a
Actually,
hobbyist. You tell me.
I don't know if you can see, the last thing is I have the Orioles stamp at the top there from that
What is
set.
it?
It's the Orioles team stamp.
Really? These team cards are worth a lot too. It's crazy. They're like a part of the Aparicio collection that I got to go get this 1960 White Sox team card, right?
And a lot of those are short prints and some of them are high numbers too. So yeah,
Really hard. They're expensive. Yeah.
some of them, yeah, really are. Because
Short prints. See,
nobody
see, I'm
kept them
learning
either.
things. Nobody
Yeah,
kept them. People threw them out, or they
yeah,
checked them off, or they
exactly.
wrote on them. Right. Okay.
You're 100% correct.
God, I'm gonna have you back to learn more. God, I could go into this rabbit hole. I got to go talk to other people. Danny Black is here. Please go find him out on the interwebs. I loved having you on. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, my friend. Good seeing you.
Old baseball cards and memories. It's like music and sports being the reason I'm still alive at this point. It's all I got left. I'm
I got
Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking the hobby and Baltimore positive.